able to speak to them in their language.
Next, be honest. This one drives me nuts. Be honest with the entities. It's not hard. Be crystal clear about your motivation for contacting them.
As a personality, again, just on the other side of the veil, they would be no happier about being lied to than you would be or I would be, I would imagine.
You can't expect them to trust you if you're hiding something. And please, for the love of all that's holy, do not make promises you can't keep just to get a reaction. Please. It's rude and one of my biggest pet peeves in the field.
Plus, it really doesn't say a lot to your moral character either.
They aren't trick ponies waiting for you to show up so they can do backflips for you. It's give and take, not just take.
And this reminds me of something my buddy Mr. Browning said, and I've always valued and treasured, and that's that he hated the word ghost hunting. He's not here to hunt a ghost, just like hunting a deer or hunting a rabbit or a squirrel. He wasn't ghost hunting. That was just a rude term in his opinion. He was there to investigate the entity that is on the premises. He's just like Grant says, it's about knowing the ghost and getting to know the entity and possibly helping them to cross to the next path. But definitely not hunting. And that word in itself has such connotation because that's what people do. They go out hunting for a ghost. Like Grant just said, a one-trick pony that they expect to do a trick for them. That's not it. These are people. These are regular people just like you, me, and everyone else. Again, they just don't have the locks of the human suit keeping them locked into this realm. So you want to treat these people with the same respect that you would treat anyone else.
Now, occasionally there will be a time where you have to provoke or put your foot down. Usually when a client or their child are being pestered. And that's fine to do. That's how you would treat a living person that is exhibiting the same behavior. But you have to follow through. You have to clean up. You can't just egg the entity on and then leave the home and the client with an agitated entity.
That definitely does not ever end well. You don't want to just go in and rile the spirit up and leave. You're doing nobody any favors, including yourself.
Oh, and for heaven's sakes, don't ever say, if you give us a sign of your presence, we'll leave. It's a lose-lose situation. Either they won't give you a sign, or they will, and you'll have to make good on your word and leave right as the activity starts. Just don't do it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like setting yourself up for failure, and if you don't leave and prove to be a liar, you're definitely not going to have any better luck either, so...
Most importantly, keep it positive, light, and fun. Most people naturally want to join in on a fun, relatable conversation, rather than an interrogation on death, dying, and the afterlife. Yes, it's perfectly fine to tease each other and laugh during an investigation. Shocking, I know. Shocking. Scandalous. Yes, scandalous. It seems that many of the entities we speak with don't realize that they're dead.
And this is something else that has come up so often in the research. The idea that they may not have any idea that they are dead. So that suggests a couple things about the world that they're in. They're either in the same world we're in, just again without the meat suit, or whatever world they're in is absolutely identical to the one that they came from, because clearly if they don't know they're dead, they don't see anything as different or wrong. So it is very likely that they're in the exact same realm, if you will, that we are, just without the physical meat suit around them in order to be able to be interacted with. The locks, if you will, have been taken off, to quote my buddy Browning again.
Talking about their death could easily confuse them. Remember, our goal is to try to connect with them, not cause them pain.
As a regular human being, if somebody come up to you and flat out told you, hey, you're dead, this is death, you never knew it, but you're actually dead, you would be really confused, especially if you believed this person, right? At least, the very least, you would be quite incredulous. And if an entity doesn't know they're dead, you telling them they're dead is not doing either of you any favors, because you could very well send them into the equivalent of shock, just as well as a person on this side losing their mind if they think they have died, or even multi-dimensional jumping. And yes, there are those that believe that, and I don't blame them, honestly, if you look at the Mandela effect. But I'm getting off topic. Anyway, the point is, there are those that believe that on either side. So to ruin one's belief system, I don't care if it's an entity or a living meatbag human, to ruin that belief system is not going to help you or the entity out at all in first. Trying to start a rapport and gain a conversation with this entity. Starting out with, "You're dead, how did you die?" probably isn't a good way to open the floodgates of friendship, right?
In my experience, every time I have a great interaction with a supposed intelligent human entity, and I mention their death or dying, the conversation ends immediately. Now, could it be due to the mental whiplash of them realizing that they're not alive anymore? Could it be because there's something preventing them from speaking about it? I don't know, but what I do know is that it ends that stream of communication, and that's counterproductive.
Again, like I was just saying a moment ago, you want to treat these entities as if they are you, me, and anyone else, because that's exactly what they are. And if you give them the shock of "you're dead," well, you probably aren't going to get anything but a surprised entity. I don't think they're stopped from telling us that information. I really don't. I think it's to the point that they probably don't realize it until the moment they're told, and then it, puts together the different things they've noticed thus far, and yeah, that could send even you or me into a mental breakdown, let alone an entity who actually is past.
So the overlying message here is, stop thinking of them as it, and start thinking of them as the people you might meet in any given daily situation. Other than understanding their unique situation, that of not being alive anymore, treat them as you would any other person. And in dealing with other people, being respectful, polite, honest, and engaging goes a lot further than commanding them.
Like I said a moment ago, you catch a whole lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. You're going to get a whole lot more conversation for being nice than you are from being not so nice. And again, this can be really good, what's the word I'm looking for, advice, even for those in the living realm especially. You're not going to have as good a luck with anybody wanting to interact with you if you're being mean and rude to people, opposed to if you're being nice and open-minded and welcoming to people. It's going to be a totally different take on how people interact with you, or whether they even want to, for that matter.
Now, this is something I'm very passionate about, guys. And unfortunately, it's a mentality that's rapidly decreasing in the field. As more and more people get engaged in paranormal investigation and ghost hunting, it seems like there's less and less respect for the entities themselves. It's a viewpoint we simply can't afford to lose. It bothers me to see people treating entities, who are just other people, so poorly and for such selfish reasons. Now, I don't care how you investigate the paranormal. Just please don't hurt people along the way, be they living or dead. Learn how to deal with living people, and you'll be a pro at handling the dead.
And that, Mr. Grant, I don't think could have been said better any other way. All right, guys, so we've got our equipment. We've learned how to use it. We've went on an investigation. We've collected all our evidence. Now there's only one step left. There's the analysis phase. And we're going to hear just a little bit about that before we close out the show. Wow, can you guys believe it's been an hour and a half already? Absolutely mind-boggling. Time goes so fast when you're having fun, and I have a blast with you guys. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Grant Wilson.
Time to analyze. Now, to be honest, you could simply hold the recorder up to your ear and listen to it, and if the EVP is clear enough, you're good to go. But that's typically not the case.
As a matter of fact, that is an extreme rarity. That may happen once or twice in an investigator's entire career.
Here are some tips on how to take it to the next level. First off, put that sucker on a computer. This will allow you to store the EVP and back it up so you don't lose it. It'll also make it much easier for you to share that EVP with other people to get a second opinion on what it might be saying and the implications of what it might be saying. Having it on the computer will also make it much easier to analyze it. Now, this is normally an easy process when it comes to digital recorders. Simply plug the USB in and copy the file onto your computer. With analog, it's a little bit trickier. You're going to need one of these babies. It's a auxiliary cord, and it's got a stereo headphone jack on each end. Simply plug one end into the headphone jack of your analog recorder and the other end into your mic input on your computer. Then you're going to want to set the volume on your recorder to about 70%. Then on your computer, simply hit record on whatever audio recording software you use. Once that's all set, hit play on your audio recorder and let it rip. Now that you've got the file on your computer, it's going to be way easier to analyze.
So step one would be to put it onto a computer for analysis. In order to put it into your audio software and bring up the sound wave files and actually do a deep analysis of the sounds in the room, or whatever sounds were caught on the recorder.
Now, most of these audio recordings are going to be pretty long, so make sure you take frequent breaks to keep your mind sharp and focused.
A very good tip, and again, a good tip for life in general. Always try to keep your mind focused and make sure you're taking breaks when you need to, and, taking care of yourself. That's number one. But when it comes to this analysis, definitely make sure you're not groggy and falling asleep and thinking you're hearing things that you're not, because, you really need to be sure of what's going on when you're analyzing these things. And something else about putting it in that audio software is you can take what looks like a flat line, turn the volume way up on it in the software, and find things there that you didn't know were there without turning it up. Because if it's no audio, it's going to be a flat line all the way across. But if there was something in there, it's going to create a bump once you turn up the gain and volume in your audio software. It's going to show that you picked something up that you didn't realize was there. But that's another good reason for putting it on the computer for analysis.
I also suggest not multitasking. A lot of people like to check their email or surf the internet while they're doing this, and it just makes it way too easy to lose your focus.
Once again, this stands pretty well for everything in life. Be careful multitasking, because you're not going to be as focused and as good on one particular project over another because you're splitting between multiples.
So plop yourself down in a comfortable spot, free from distractions. Throw on some good quality headphones so you can hear everything clearly in the recording. Grab yourself a notebook, a pencil, some snacks and a drink, and you're ready to go.
And stay on task. I cannot also emphasize that enough. Stay focused on what you're doing, take it seriously, and stay on task.
Once you find a potential EVP, grab that notebook and pencil, jot down the file name, time, duration, and who, if anyone, was present when it was recorded. Also take note if the EVP is unclear and requires any kind of filtering.
All very pertinent information to the investigation and analysis.
Now, when it comes to filtering an EVP, you're going to need some software. Pretty much any audio software will do. I use Adobe Audition and Pro Tools. Then again, I write and record music, so I have a reason for investing in such software.
And I can tell you, I personally use Adobe Audition, and I think it's one of the best pieces of software on the market, but it's also one of the most expensive pieces of software on the market too. However, you don't need the expensive stuff. You can use something like the free version of Audacity just to look at the audio files and do analysis on them. You don't need to have something super fancy for something like that. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't afford it, or don't let yourself think that you can't afford to do something like this. It costs too much to get into this field, because it really doesn't. You can use really cheap software and stuff for analysis, and you don't have to have the $1,000 media recorders, things like that. But it's going to cost a little bit, but I guarantee you it's not a rich man's field.
Filters aren't amazing, though.
That's true. When it comes to the free software, the filters aren't absolutely amazing, but that's a good thing, and here's why.
Because you want to avoid over-filtering your EVPs. So call now! When it comes to filtering your EVPs, less is more. I usually start by simply boosting the volume. Now, if I can't hear it clearly at that point, I'll go ahead and remove the click, hiss, and pop from the recording. There's usually a very easy to use filter that does this quickly. Now, if that doesn't make it discernible, then I usually stop at that point. Applying any further filtering usually distorts the EVP beyond recognition.
This is something else that I cannot emphasize enough in the analysis part of the program, is the fact that you need to be very, very careful when it comes to using filters. I know myself that when it comes to analyzing things like that, the only thing I ever do is turn up the gain and the volume to see if I can see something that I didn't see or hear originally. I don't do a lot of extra filtering because the more filtering you add, the worse the quality is actually going to be. You're not going to help your quality boost any by adding all these filters. As a matter of fact, you're just going to make it a worse and worse quality EVP if you continue. And you may end up with anomalies and artifacts in the audio that weren't really there just by adding these filters. So be very, very careful when you're doing analysis and adding filters and things like that, that you're not really filtering so much as maybe changing the volume, or like he said, taking out pops and hisses, or maybe raising the gain or another part of the volume, once again, just to be able to analyze the file opposed to changing the quality or style of the file itself.
One technique people like to use is called phase filtering. This takes a short sampling of the background noise and overlays it on the entire clip as a filter. This essentially cancels out the background noise from the recording. This sounds like an answer to our prayers. Amazingly convenient, right? In theory, all that should remain after removing all that background noise should be the EVP, right? Well, it's not. What you usually end up with is what sounds like a transmission from Mars or a droid with a bad motivator. Therefore, I suggest not phase filtering at all.
And again, it speaks to my point I made a moment ago. Just because you add a bunch of filters doesn't mean you increase the quality. As a matter of fact, you most likely decrease the quality.
Now, there are some subtle things you can listen for to help identify if the sound is an EVP and not from some other mundane source. There is a phenomenon I call bracketing.
And once again, I got out of ghost and spirit phenomenon research for a while, so this to me is a new concept also. So let's learn something else together, guys.
Bracketing is usually more pronounced on analog recorders than it is on digital. Shortly before and after an EVP, you may hear a small sound. It's usually a click or a small thud or a short quiet patch of static. Either way, the initial sound will always be of the same type as the closing sound. Essentially, you'll hear the opening bracket, the EVP, and then a closing bracket.
Okay, so I'm sure we all know exactly what he's referencing here. You hear the shh, and then you hear the whatever the EVP is, and then you hear the shh again, for instance. I've noticed this myself in many EVP analysis. I just never have known it to be called bracketing, but it makes sense.
If you catch brackets around an EVP, it should help you feel like you've got something a little more legit. Listen to the acoustics of the EVP. Usually the acoustics of the EVP you've captured will vary greatly from the acoustics of the investigators' voices in the room. Sometimes the EVP sounds closer to the microphone than it does the voices of the investigators. Or sometimes the room will add a slight echo to the investigators' voices, but the EVP will be devoid of that echo.
Which is another phenomenon that I find super intriguing, because it again suggests that they're able to manipulate the audio electronic devices and not using sound waves as we would traditionally know sound waves to be.
Or vice versa. Basically, if the acoustics of the EVP you captured don't match the acoustics of the room you were investigating, that voice couldn't possibly have been heard while that was recording. That adds another layer of validation.
And suggests that it truly is a real EVP and not just a environmental anomaly.
Now, on the flip side, here are a few acoustic traps to look out for. Whispering is easily confused with EVPs. I always recommend to speak just above a whisper. Kinda like this. Just above a whisper. I'm whispering now. I'm not whispering now. This allows you to talk as quietly as possible while still keeping your voice recognizable as your own.
We definitely want to make sure we're not creating any false positives during the investigation, for sure.
This is very important to remember, because being able to recognize your own voice will help you avoid acoustic traps, such as sound refraction. Now, as we all know, sound travels in waves, but the direction of that sound is in 90-degree angles to those waves. Now, after a hot day, there's cool air near the ground and warm air up in the sky. Sound travels faster in warm air and slower in cool air. This causes the sound waves up high to curve because sound always travels perpendicular to the wave. This effect makes sounds that are further away sound closer than they actually are. So always be aware of this phenomenon. Get some control recordings and be suspicious of every sound you hear.
Did you guys know about this environmental phenomenon and that sound travels different in different temperatures? If you did, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room. If you had never heard of this before and you actually learned something new, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat room. And if you just completely missed that altogether, go ahead and put a 3.
Dome ceilings present a unique problem. Be very leery of them. If two people stand in the sweet spots on opposite ends of a dome and speak at any level, it's going to sound as if they are directly next to each other. In addition to just hearing the sound coming from across the room, like a billiard ball bouncing off a pool table, that sound's going to reflect off the ceiling and down to the listener. And that's going to do that multiple times, so it's going to magnify the effect of the sound, and it'll be much louder than just hearing you from across the room. The best way to counter this is to put a second recorder on the exact opposite side of the room from any recorder you may have placed in there. This way you can validate if you've actually caught EVPs or if they're just sounds being magnified from the other side of the dome. Now, air ducts are excellent at transporting sound. I don't know how many cases I've been on where the cause for the activity was actually sound traveling through an air duct to behind a couch or a bed. Always be aware of the placement of the air ducts in a home, especially behind and underneath furniture, and especially in duplexes or apartments.
One of the first things, and I think I mentioned this earlier, as a good investigator, one of the first things you should do is look for any of these type anomalies. Know where the air ducts are. Know where the industrial fans in the building are. Know where anything in the house is that could cause these crazy sound frequencies. Like he said, sound traveling through air ducts into a wall can create some funky sounding noises. And if an investigator can rule out everything else, then whatever's left, has to be accepted.
Anyone who's investigated at all is aware of this one. Be leery of rumbling stomachs. Now, I can't count how many cheeseburger demons people have captured on investigations, all because they were too shy to tag it. Now, this is not the time to be coy. If you cough, burp, or fart, make a bodily noise, own up to it. We all do it. Part of who we are. It's biology.
Again, let's be careful not to blame false positives on ourselves. Instead of blaming it on the dog, now they're blaming it on ghosts, right?
Plus, if you happen to crack one off on an investigation, it'll lighten the mood. Just give people a heads up so they don't think there's a demon invasion, okay?
Yeah, if I start smelling rotten eggs and sulfur and somebody doesn't fess up, I may get a little worried because we do know that is classic demonic activity.
Now that you've ruled all of those out and you've filtered your EVP, it's ready to go. The very last step is the most important though. Share your EVP with at least 5 other people. Don't tell them what you hear, or that it's a little girl's voice, for example. Don't even tell them the conditions of the case.
The last thing that you want to do if you're trying to validate an EVP is prime your subject. That is not going to be helpful. What I want all the time is an independent validation. I don't want my subject to be expecting anything except for you're going to hear something, I want you to give me your opinion. That's it. I don't want to tell them what I think I heard. I don't want to prime them or suggest in any way when presenting an EVP to somebody. I just want to play a piece of audio and see what they hear. That way I get an independent analysis from them without outside influence.
Just tell them when to expect it, have them listen to it several times so they can come to their own conclusion. They need to be free to be as objective as possible. Now, if they hear the same thing as you, this will validate not only the quality of the EVP, but your ear as an audio evidence reviewer. So there you have it. Simple, right? The more you do it, the more you'll learn. Just remember to take your Tums to avoid those cheeseburger demons.
Cheeseburger demons are the absolute worst, right? But seriously, guys, be careful on investigations. Make sure you're very, very thorough. Make sure you've accounted for all options, all environmental obstacles. once everything is accounted for and you're still able to catch an electronic voice phenomenon or EVP, then you know that you've got something real. And this is definitely, in my opinion, some of the best evidence we can find for proof of the afterlife. And as a matter of fact, if we look into it, analyze it as we've done tonight, we can see a couple clues on what the afterlife may actually look like and be like. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is real? Do you think EVPs are a real thing that people are catching on these ghost hunt investigations, these electronic voice phenomenon? Do you think that it could be magnetic anomalies on the tape? Do you think it could be magnetic anomalies on the environment or from the human body itself? Or do you think it could really be messages from the other side? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the DarkWolf's Den Show for Thursday, November 19th, 2020. I hope everybody has enjoyed this extremely deep dive down the rabbit hole of EVPs. I know I have enjoyed doing it immensely for you guys, as we enjoy doing every episode. I am so thankful for you guys coming by every week and hanging out with us. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the DarkWolf's Den Show this week. We have no more episodes left on the air. However, our buddy AJ the Rippin' Rabbit will be taking over for Friday through Sunday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I happen to know that on Friday night he's going to be talking about rights and wrongs. There's a very fine line sometimes that defines right and wrong, isn't there? Are you doing right? Are you doing wrong? Are you sure? Tune in Friday night to find out more. Then on Saturday night, what are we talking about again? Squirrels? Oh yeah, attention deficit disorder. That's right. Attention deficit disorder. Do you know anybody who suffers with attention deficit disorder? Or do yourself? Ooh, that's shiny. I mean, do you yourself suffer with attention deficit disorder? I don't know. I've been accused of it a time or two. What is that sound? Oh, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, tune in Saturday for attention deficit disorder. You might learn something there. And speaking of learning something, Sunday is going to be a very fun episode indeed. You might learn about 3D worlds, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to have special guest, our buddy Juanito 1975, a good buddy of the network here. He's the one that does the Mandela effect rap, going out to break every episode. So come in Sunday on AJ's Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show, where he'll be on there discussing 3D worlds. And let me tell you guys, he is really, really talented with that. This is going to blow your mind. And it's a good thing, because that's going to round the weekend out. You're going to have a couple days to recoup before we kick it back off again on Wednesday and Thursday night with a brand new weekend here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. Speaking of Rippin' Common Sense Radio, go over on rippinrabbithole.com while we are off on Monday and Tuesday, and you can still find our archived episodes and all kind of fun stuff. What was that episode? What was that website again? Oh, that is the rippinrabbithole.com. I'm glad you asked. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Over there, like I said, you're going to find the archived episodes of both AJ's Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show, as well as the DarkWolf's Den Show archives. So definitely check that out. Also, while you're over there, if you've got a group topic or a topic you'd like to suggest for us to do a show on, go over to the groups section, the rabbit holes we call them over there, and drop us a line in our DarkWolf's Den Show groups, topics, and suggestions, and we would love to hear from you guys. Also, there's all kind of other groups over there. You don't necessarily have to be over there for me. You can go over and check out the Mandela Effect group. You can check out Juanito 1975's Lucid Dreaming group. There's something for everybody over there. Speaking of everybody that I hang out with hangs out over there at the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right. Make sure you come over and hang out with me if you'd like. It's absolutely free. Just go to the 24/7 Backstage Lounge, scroll halfway down the page, select the VIP entrance. When you do, it's going to ask you to okay your camera and microphone. Go ahead and hit okay. You can turn those off the moment you get in the room and just use text if you would like. We've got a couple people that do just that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm going to go here in just a couple minutes. So with that said, I can't wait for Friday through Sunday, guys, and AJ's Rippin' Rabbit Hole live shows this week. These are some great topics, and it's going to be lots of fun, and we're going to learn a lot of stuff along the way, like we always do. My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and on behalf of Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Walt House, AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, everybody that supports this show and this station, as well as everyone at Rippin' Common Sense Radio. We thank you for listening, and remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. I will see everybody tomorrow on AJ's show. How? Yeah! The weekend has begun. Good night, everybody.
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the grass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.